What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. The Void, the little things that go unnoticed, but this week we probably have a few things that are pretty big. Denis Villeneuve, I forget how you pronounce his last name.
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve to direct Bond. The Rey movie. I don't know why we're still talking about this because it's never happening. But it gets stalled again. Crowe, Cavill, reteaming in Highlander. Bond, Brian, we get a director. Your thoughts, and I'm sure you're very much excited, and a lot of people are excited for this development with him directing Bond based on what he's done in the past, which have been spectacles, masterpieces, visually, performances, incredible. And now he's diving into the world of James Bond. Your thoughts?
I think it's an amazing outcome. And we hadn't talked about him in the first. We heard maybe they would go for Christopher Nolan. Then we heard maybe Alfonso Cuarón. And let's be clear, either one of those would have been awesome as well. But when it came time for it, by all accounts, 5 directors were in the conversation. 5 actually auditioned effectively for the role. Interestingly, Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan, who sometimes is co-writer, creator of Westworld, among other things, he was one of the 5.
Wow.
All 5, I will say this, all 5 of these were interesting. And if Amazon was to follow the pattern of Bond's history where they use different directors over time, I wouldn't mind seeing all 5 of these guys get a shot just to find out what it would look like. So, for example, Edgar Wright was one of the guys who pitched. Really distinctive visual style, seems very un-Bond-like in some ways, but you know what? There's a world where I'd love to see it, like what it looks like. Paul King, who's best known for kind of lighter fare, but has directed, among other things, like the Paddington movie, which is considered like the greatest animated movie, one of the greatest animated movies of all time. And then like Wonka, I think he directed, which obviously was a big hit for Warner Brothers, whatever you want to call about it. Well reviewed, $650 million. So he was one of the finalists. And then Edward Berger, more serious director, but directed All Quiet on the Western Front, which was Academy Award nominated. He was the runner-up. But Denis Villeneuve is your winner. This is amazing. I mean, in my mind, if you look at his resume, visualization, character, originality, he is in that. We've talked about the Nolan Coogler conversation. This is another guy at that table pushing the limits of what movies look like, sound like, and he always seems to have a real take, and apparently is a admitted like lifelong fanboy of the James Bond IP. This is like a dream project. So it's weird. Dune was his dream sci-fi project, and you saw what he did with it. He made that an Academy. That thing has been nominated. The 2 movies have been nominated, I think, for over 20 Academy Awards. They've made a combined like $1.2 billion of global box office. We're getting so much so it forced him to make the 3rd one, which he's doing now to finish that off. But all of his movies look beautiful. Blade Runner 2049 looks beautiful. Sicario is so gritty, looks amazing. Like Arrival is a sci-fi movie. Like Bond hasn't looked like this. I think like the way this will look on screen, I think will take Bond into different places of elevated visuals that's not what we've known this IP to be. And I think it will be this go around. So I'm uber excited, and I can't believe he wanted to do it, and I can't believe they hired him to do it.
I think if none of those guys, if you had them on a list and you never spoke to any of them, he would have still came out on top based on his resume and what he's done. These other guys, although have done spectacular things as well, he still would have came out on top. Chris Nolan, to me, that he wasn't announced, I think he is, again, one of those exceptional directors, but still he operates on his terms, and he doesn't like to do a lot of sequels, which I think James Bond films would possibly require him to be a part of for several years. And I don't think Chris Nolan is in that sort of, doesn't like to do those things. And so hence he hasn't been chosen. Unless he really adamantly wanted to do one, uh,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? He would have probably been chosen. But I think, again, those guys on the list, he still would have came out on top. Denis Villeneuve.
I don't think it was Nolan wasn't chosen. I think it's more the timeline. I think it's more, you're right. Nolan would only do one. I think that would be his dream. I think Villeneuve might only do one. I mean, we don't know if Amazon's going to follow the pattern, but like, it was very rare for Sam Mendes was really the exception when he did Skyfall and Spectre. Like, we don't typically see the same director in James Bond movies over and over again. So I still think, if anything, they're such close friends, Villeneuve and Nolan. You could argue this will put more pressure on Nolan someday to come back around and do a James Bond movie.
But it was some of the words that he used to describe what he will be doing with this world, and expansion was one of those words that I felt gave a clue as to perhaps how many films he would probably do.
I think it's also somewhat schedule could be a factor here. I think like Villeneuve is maybe available a little sooner than a Nolan would be, because he's working on Dune now, the finale of Dune now, so he'll be done with that in a year. And if they want to get this out late Christmas 2027, summer 2028, like he could be on time. But you're right. I mean, I think one thing that's clear from this is he had a very specific take on what he wanted to do with this character. And clearly Amazon was like, yes, that's it. That's where we want to kick off our franchise. I mean, I think it's based on his track record. Again, it won't be a favorite, but you have to say, odds are the next James Bond movie will be nominated for some Oscars, which is crazy. That's awesome.
Do you believe that Henry Cavill will be the one announced to play Bond?
I don't know. I think what it says to me is that any casting headline that you see in the near term means nothing. Because I think at this point you can safely say, look, they've got the director, they've got the producers. Now they're going to start looking at casting at some point. But they're not going to hand Villeneuve his Bond, right? Like, he's accomplished a director enough to be like, he's picking it. I mean, he's going to have, I think, final say. It still could be Cavill. I'm sure that might be someone that Amazon brings up. But I don't think Villeneuve will be bound to Henry Cavill if he is blown away by someone else, or he has a specific age for Bond that he wants. Like, I think it'll be his call. But the timing here is also interesting, because like Cavill's got some stuff coming up, right? And it's kind of like, granted, you're like, okay, this doesn't tell you anything about his ability to play the character, but it's like, if Voltron is successful, if Highlander is successful in the next year, like, obviously his star power will be on the rise, and that will certainly help. Amazon's looking to make money here, right? That's the end of the day. Like, Denis Villeneuve is a great creator. We love what he's going to do with it. Like, but Denis Villeneuve also gets you paid. Like, his movies can do pretty well for you, right? In his hands, James Bond is probably a $1 billion type film. That's what you're looking for. Like, so, but I'm really impressed. I mean, I think, again, it's like Amazon getting control of this IP, and they come out of the gate with this. Like, that's a pretty good place to start.
Oh yeah, I mean, Amazon is looking to always, I think, do big things and do great things. My only concern outside of Bond, and it was something that you mentioned with Voltron, there's a lot of concern there. Hopefully it does well, but I don't know, based on some of the things that we've heard lately regarding whether or not to put it on in the movies or just leave it in streaming. Because if the discussion, or if it ultimately lands strictly on streaming, it doesn't. There will be quite a bit of concern there for that IP. And Henry Cavill, if he doesn't perform well. Because I think with Henry Cavill, you have to extract that great performance from him. Because we've seen him in some things, I've seen him in some things that he didn't deliver. So we'll see.
Well, he's also a bigger celebrity than he is a movie star right now. I mean, go through his career box office. I mean, again, I generally like Henry Cavill, the performer, but like, he has not been the leading man for a number of huge box office successes yet. That's just the truth. Now, I do think Henry Cavill under the guide of Denis Villeneuve on a Bond film is probably his best chance for that. I actually think, like I said, we got Highlander and The Void again today. I think that's a sleeper to be one of those things that people really take note of and can make money. Although the budget sounds a little high, I think it still can make money. But yeah, like Man of Steel on down, like he doesn't have a lot of massive box office wins yet. So
the Rey movie stalls again. Why we are talking about it still is beyond me, because when you talk to me about the possibilities of the Jedi movie, the genesis of the Jedi in what's the guy's name doing this film or pitching? I think this is a done deal in terms of it being done. The birth of
James
the Jedi.
Mangold doing Dawn of the Jedi.
Yes, Dawn of the Jedi. What perhaps the Mandalorian may or may not do, but there's, I think, some perhaps excitement for it when it's finally shown to the world in a trailer or whatever they decide to show us. I don't know how this Rey movie is universally decided upon to get a green light, other than someone's own agenda to push this through no matter what.
That's the key word.
Your thoughts?
Okay. So here's why we keep talking about it. So first off, we need like a poly market betting head to head between Blade and the Rey movie, like which is least likely to ever see the light of day, because these two movies are locked in like a news flow of like when there's like news on one, there's news on the other, and usually it's not good. Now we've heard maybe the latest one is maybe Blade maybe is moving forward. Yeah, well, I'll believe that when I see it. But this movie, I've said from the beginning, this thing is DOA, and now you get the report that Sean Levy's Last Starfighter, which they did announce and has cast Ryan Gosling, has been casting up, and James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi, that those are the two Star Wars movies that are next, that are actually in pre-production. And obviously we know the Mando Grogu movie is done and coming next, or done in post-production coming next summer. So they're saying, well, now the Rey movie's been shuffled behind those two movies, and but remember, they lost their writer. They've gone through like five. This is like Blade. They've gone through like 4, 5, 6 different writers. They still have the same director in Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, but who also made those comments a while back about basically labeling this movie as an agenda movie before it was even made, which I think, went over like a lead balloon. And I think is part of we've talked about it. This would go into that category of the female-led action superhero sci-fi type of project if you made Rey the sole kind of lead. And you've got a lot of things, and it's a character that she did a good job. I would say she probably emerged from the last trilogy as the generally most liked of the main characters. I think that's a fair statement. But this is not the continuing adventures of Luke Skywalker post Return of the Jedi in 1986, right? Like, this is a trilogy with a lot of warts on it that a lot of people would like to forget. And now you start to introduce, like, is it going to be one of those Disney movies, since the director is kind of saying that's what she wants it to be? A lot of problems here. I don't think this is ever going to happen. And the other reason I bring it up that's similar to Blade is what? Mahershala Ali, Daisy Ridley, both trotted out on stage. Look who's doing a project. And years later, nothing.
Anything else on this?
No, the other tidbit, which I thought was highly aspirational, was they said, okay, so mentioned not Last Starfighter. Jedi Starfighter? Or Starfighter? Is it just Starfighter?
I think it's just Starfighter.
Just Starfighter, because the Last Starfighter was the movie from the 80s. So they said that the Mando Grogu movie is supposed to kick off a new trilogy, to which I say, let's pump the brakes on that. Are we sure we need 3 movies for those two? And B, are we sure the first one's going to do well enough to automatically justify 3 movies? Like, are we sure?
I'm telling you right now, if Grogu don't say nothing, he just can't be just there. You know what I'm saying?
I guess their argument would be like 3 movies would be the equivalent of like one more season, right? It would be like 7.5 hours, 8 hours. But 3 movies probably takes you. That means Jon Favreau will be making Mando Grogu movies for the next like 5 or 6 years. Like,
but they must be hyped about it if they're talking this future, right? They must be liking what they're seeing in terms of what they've done so far.
We've talked about it. Like, the box office expectation for Star Wars movies is in the $1 billion. Like, I'm not convinced this is Lilo and Stitch.
Hell no!
Because the Mando audience is not like that show's audience is not like Game of Thrones size.
I just think after seeing Andor, I'm not settling for anything less. You just can't.
I hear you. Like I said, there's room for both, but I think Dawn of the Jedi, of the projects on the board, is far and away the most interesting thing. Far and away the most interesting thing.
And lastly, Crowe reteaming with Cavill in Highlander. Your thoughts, Brian? You I would assume you're probably a lot excited. You're a lot more excited than I am. Because again, I've never really been into the Highlander. I've never said I disliked it, but it's never really interest me. But this is a huge development for the Highlander movie that stars Henry Cavill. Your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a lot of like life meets art parallels here, because obviously Russell Crowe was Jor-El to Henry Cavill's Kal-El in Man of Steel, and now Crowe is playing this Highlander's version of the Sean Connery Ramirez character that mentored Christopher Lambert's Connor McLeod. And so, first off, Russell Crowe probably needs to get a little bit closer to his gladiator conditioning to do this role. But they had good chemistry, right? I mean, they had good chemistry in Man of Steel. Russell Crowe as the mentor is sort of almost taking a little bit of the Liam Neeson role as Liam Neeson goes on to remaking 80s comedies. But I think it adds some gravitas to the project, right? I mean, I think everything about this project is indicated they're taking it very seriously. The action choreography is going to be top-notch. The swordplay is going to be top-notch between Cavill's own training with Witcher and Chad Stahelski's work on John Wick. They are shooting this on multiple locations, which is exciting. This is a globe-trotting franchise. I think the budget's high. I think it should be a little lower, to be quite honest, than the 175. 175 is what they reported. That's why Lionsgate wouldn't do it, and Amazon would. That being said, if Amazon is willing to put that kind of dollars behind this, and they've got a pretty star-heavy, lead crew for this now, I do think there's potential. And I do think there's real potential to make this look elevated, look very cool. And Crowe, in this type of role, it's some of the better work that I think he's done later in his career. So I think it's a big get for them. And so, I continue to be excited as this can be like a sleeper, makes 400 to 500 type at the global box office. But everyone's like, for lack of a better word, because everyone's going to make the comparison, this is going to be like the Sword and Sandals John Wick, or like the Swordplay John Wick once it comes out, and they're like, what could this be? Because you can, again, as we've seen, this IP was overmined for a long time, but you can do it over and over and over again if it's done well.
Who's directing it?
Stahelski, the John Wick director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is his dream project. So this is like,
he's going all out.
He's pursued this. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm like, all right, like again, like ironically, one of the worst things about the Highlander franchise historically is the swordplay, because they just they weren't martial artists. They weren't like great swordsmen that they were picking to do the fighting. And so it's almost like how, like, when you see the duels in Empire Strikes Back, right, where it's like, it's a great scene, it's so dramatic, but if you're just analyzing the technical skill of Luke and Vader, they're not really good. But and then you watch Ewan McGregor and Ray Park do it in Phantom Menace, and you're like, okay, now that's a lightsaber duel. So
And even
that's
in,
what
in
I'm
the
talking
last
about.
one, with the Revenge of the Sith,
Oh yeah, where the two of
that
them are just
final
going
scene,
at it.
yeah, yeah, those.
So that's what I'm looking for in terms of an upgrade in the action quality. So I think keep your eye on this one. I really think in the Amazon stable, this is another one that can surprise people with how good it could be.
Anything else in the void that you want to add?
So I've seen F1 twice. I saw it once in IMAX and I saw it once in a Dolby Cinema theater. It's a very, I'll just say this. If you see it, and I would highly recommend people see it, it definitely get yourself to a big screen. Definitely get yourself to a theater that has the audio to actually realize the full potential of this movie. I don't think you'll feel closer to being in a car going 200 miles an hour than you will in this movie. The way the cameras are placed, the way Joe Kosinski, who is the director of Top Gun Maverick, takes you through some of the races is really fun to be a part of. You do not need to be a Formula One fan to enjoy the movie. The story, you will be able to predict the story pretty early on. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel with that, but the performances are compelling. They use a lot. If you are a fan of the sport, the actual drivers, teams, cars, courses are basically all in this movie, but they're not reliant on that. And so it's much more about just a window into the life of being an F1 driver and what goes into that sport, some of the glamours, some of the work, some of the technical stuff with the car, but most of all, see it and hear it. It's just one of those things. Like I sat in my seat and literally my seat was shaking at points from the hum of the engine, soundtrack, the score, just the way it's done. It is.
Can you take your kid to watch this?
It depends how much bad language you're okay letting your kid hear, because there's F words and S words all over the place in this movie. There's nothing grotesque. I mean, there's crashes and stuff like that, but it's really
intense,
realistic. It's really intense racing and realistic stuff. And there's a lot, like I said, the camera placement's great to where you're just sort of feeling like you're moving and seeing the different courses and what they're like. So it's a really enjoyable experience. I hope it does really well. The theaters. So I saw it early. I got to see it a couple days before it came out, and it was sold out both times that I saw it. So, and people were into it. Like I will tell you, especially in the second time that I saw it, there's a scene that's a crash that is pretty Hollywood, but it's pretty gripping. And when people saw it, you could hear there was literally like a in the theater, even though you know it's not real. That's the testament to the movie that like it had people like that. And then at the end, which obviously I'm not going to spoil it, but like the joyous moments or the rewarding moments, people clapped. People were fired up. So
okay.
Yeah, it is a crowd pleaser. It'll feel good. There's no politics. There's no controversial stuff. It's just like fun time in the movies for 2 hours. And Joe Kosinski, man, when it comes to vehicles, he's the guy. And I'm telling you, Miami Vice, his Miami Vice, I'll be there for that opening night. I can tell you that.
Okay.
So
one other thing, Brian, I want to add on to this. Supposedly, is Mortal Kombat 2 going into the theaters?
Report is yes, in the fall.
So what I've heard from test screenings is that because who's playing not Luke Cage?
Carl Urban is Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage.
Yes.
What I've been hearing is people are just from test screenings, people are reacting similarly to Endgame and Infinity War with some of the things that they pull off in this. Your thoughts on this certainly outdoing its first initial outing in the first Mortal Kombat, which was disappointing to say the least, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But apparently this one seems like they're going to be bringing in the best of what they can do with this Mortal Kombat IP. Your thoughts on so far positivity?
So there's a world where they effectively are going to get away with something here, because Mortal Kombat, the original one, came out during the pandemic. It clearly was originally meant to go to the theater had the pandemic not happened, and it didn't. Instead, they did the day and date, so they put it straight onto HBO Max, and it's not good. And not only is it not good, there's no tournament, which is just an unforgivable sin. But because it went out on Max, in a weird way, it probably kept the audience smaller to where now when they do this, which does have the tournament and does have more of the original characters, it kind of almost feels like the first one again, not like the sequel, if that makes sense. Like they may get away with this where people don't associate this with the last one as much because they're kind of like, well, that was a different time. They almost forget about it. And now this is like this is the Mortal Kombat that there is a world where where we kind of, the one that's on Max is like a prequel. And this is actually like Mortal Kombat 1. And it's kind of like a mulligan. And that's kind of what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. If you're talking reactions like Endgame because of the fatalities and all that other stuff, we'll see. We'll see. This is this movie's looking to be a crowd pleaser in the theaters.
Weirdly, too, don't forget, there's a couple of, so first off, they got to de-emphasize the lead guy. I need less of that character. That audience avatar martial arts character they introduced in that first one is not compelling. But they have I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's Sonata, the lead of Shogun, is Scorpion, I believe. Scorpion or Sub-Zero? He's one of the two. No, he's Scorpion. He's Scorpion. Yeah. And Scorpion and Sub-Zero, despite them having a death match in the first one, are both back for the second one. So I just use that as an example of like when Mortal Kombat came out on Max, Sonata was like a well-known kind of character actor, but a very much like I know that guy. Now he's an Emmy award-winning lead from Shogun, right? So, and he's playing Scorpion. Like he's just playing Scorpion, right? Carl Urban, who's been a great actor for a long time, is now like fresh off being the man in The Boys for 4 or 5 years. Like I'm just saying the profile of some of these people they have in these parts is bigger than when they signed them.
Yeah.
So they are catching a little bit of a break there, I think, that could help this project.
Okay.
I want to see how they bring back, is it Kung Lao? Kung Lao was the one who got it, right? In the first one, they said he's back somehow. That I want to see. How are they going to pull that off?
Yeah, well, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of the new Bond director, which is very, very exciting for the Bond series, and we'll be on the lookout for who they cast as their Bond. The Rey movie, who cares, right? Hopefully it never gets done. Yeah, I'm serious. Who like, I don't understand. And Crowe, Cavill reteaming. It'll be interesting to see them back together again, and hopefully Cavill delivers on his performance, because that's always a concern for me. And Mortal Kombat is getting a lot of hype. It's getting a lot of hype. So let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. Hit that like and subscribe, share with your friends, and comment in the comment section below, because we're always listening. And we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.